From the Fidelity Bank Foundation studio, PBS Kansas presents One-on-One with Victor Hogstrom.
If you grew up reading the sports page in the Wichita Eagle, you might recognize the byline of my guest on this edition of One-on-One. He began his career as a top-tier sports writer at the University of Kansas, earning the William Randolph Hearst Award, which is the Pulitzer Prize of college journalism. His name, Grant Overstake. Grant spent years covering championships for the Miami Herald and the Wichita Eagle, but he eventually traded the press box for the bookshelf. Today, he is an award-winning novelist and civic educator. His book, The Real Education of T.J. Crowley, recently won the prestigious Audie Award. He's also the founder of the Real Education Project, an initiative that partners with schools to teach resilience, empathy, and character through storytelling. So join me for a half-hour discussion with this master storyteller. He is author, athlete, and educator Grant Overstake. Right now, One-on-One. Hello and welcome to One-on-One. I'm Victor Hogstrom. I'm pleased to welcome Grant Overstake to the program. Grant, it's a pleasure to have you.
It is my pleasure. Thank you, Victor.
You know, one of the things that is impressive about your background is that you won the Hearst Award right out of college, or while you were in college journalism.
I've had a wonderful experience in journalism, and it began in my youth and it carried on through college. The William Randolph Hearst Award was one of the highlights of my college days at the University of Kansas, when a sports feature that I won was selected for what they call the Pulitzer Prize of college newspaper writing.
Right.
Yeah.
So did you always know that you wanted to be a writer?
I did. My early teachers probably didn't think so. I had trouble spelling. I was left-handed. I scrawled across the page, but I stuck with it. I had a great librarian, Victor. My librarian, her name was Lois Lane, and she was at Buckner Elementary, and she was a superpower in my life. And I credit much of my love for writing and reading to Lois Lane.
So winning that Hearst Award, how did that make you feel? What did it mean to you? What did it do for you?
It was a great day. I think finding the story that won the Hearst Award was better than winning the award. Because the experience of being with the feature, the subject that I wrote about and his life.
And who was this?
He was a guy, his name was Pearl, was his nickname. And he was a fellow from New York City who was a street basketball player, came to University of Kansas, to the Mecca of Allen Fieldhouse with big dreams, but he was not very tall. He grew out instead of up, and his story was that he was a fixture around the arena and his dreams of basketball, and turned out to be a good story. He was a wonderful subject, and it was during the days that I was at KU that I wrote that piece, and it was great to meet Pearl and to share in his dream. A lot of dreams, a lot of sports stories have to do with dreams.
Mm-hmm. That award opened doors for you because it took you to one of the major markets in the country, Miami.
It did. My experience as a newspaper reporter began when I was 18 years old at the Wichita Eagle and Beacon, which they had a morning paper and an evening paper. And that was the opportunity that I had to have a leg up. By the time I got to journalism school, I'd written several articles in a real newspaper.
Right.
And that gave me good stead. And the people from Miami were looking for reporters, and I was hired by the Miami Herald to work in their Fort Lauderdale bureau in 1980 was when it was Mario Boat Lift.
Right, and this was at a college.
Yes,
right?
just out of college.
Right, but during high school, you got a job, as you mentioned earlier, with the Wichita Eagle. How did that happen?
It's a good story. The journalism class that I was in high school, I had the Kansas High School Activities Association has journalism contests, and I was fortunate enough to win one of those contests. And I was at home one day, and the phone rang, and he said, "My name is Mal Elliott. I'm the sports editor of the Wichita Eagle. I judged your contest that you won. Would you like a job?"
And you said?
How soon can I be there?
But Grant, you eventually, after writing and working with newspapers and writing many sports stories, even winning that Hearst Award, you eventually traded the press box for the books, the bookshelf. Why?
That's a really good question. The newspaper industry was evolving. The turn to writing came later in my career, and it started actually about 2012 when we returned to Wichita. My wife, Claire, my high school sweetheart, she had just won the Presidential Award for Science Teaching from President Obama.
Okay.
And so we went to Washington, D.C., and she was honored there. And I got to carry her suitcase, and it was wonderful. And afterwards, I said, "Well, Claire, where do you want to go?" And she said, "Let's go back home." And so we had folks that were getting older here, and Claire's mom is still doing great. And so we came back. And when I came back, Victor, the landscape of the newspaper business that I had known when I took the job was gone. There were 45 reporters in the newsroom when I had left. By the time I got back, it was a very different time. And I actually was, I don't want to say, I had already been a managing editor of newspapers and in roles, publishing roles. And so I realized, maybe it's time for you just to step back and tell those stories that you've always wanted to tell. If you were, and so there was always a couple of stories that I wanted to tell.
So what makes a good sports story, the writing of a good sports story?
Conflict.
Oh, okay.
The game itself,
Right.
The game's a flip, or the event where the person is up against the stopwatch or the measuring tape. That's always good. And then people who've overcome the odds, backstories. I was always more impressed with a backstory than, the game story. And I think that's what drew me to delving deeper, and fiction allowed me to create characters that people were interested in.
So how does writing a novel different from writing a sports story, especially on deadline?
Oh, well, a novel is stretched out. Of course, you have more time to develop the characters. You have more time to set the stage and the arc, and to let people know what the stakes are. In a sports is already have that. You already know what it's going to be. They can set that up in 30 seconds before a game on television. Hey, it's this and that, and then it's all for all the marbles, and let's go. So you usually have that really set. That you're at a game that has a story already in it. And when you're writing a novel, you create the story yourself and build from there.
And so you got into writing a novel, and your first one is Maggie Vaults Over the Moon.
Yes. Maggie Vaults Over the Moon is the story that I started with. It's a story it's set in rural Kansas, and it's a story of a high school girl who lives on a farm in a small town, in a small area called Grain Valley, Kansas, which is totally fictional, but everybody says they've been there. You know, I did reporting in small Kansas towns for a while. I did editing, and I loved that life and the rural life of the wheat harvest and the way that people care about each other, community, comes to life in this book. And it's a story that follows a high school girl from a very small, she's going through a hard time. She finds an outlet for her grief through an unlikely source, which is pole vaulting. And she starts pole vaulting in secret because girls aren't supposed to pole vault in this era. And so she overcomes, and it also covers in 100, you know, the Kansas State High School, that's another topic. But this story takes a girl from the farm all the way to the state Kansas High School Activities Association State track and field meet. And so that's a journey that thousands of young people in Kansas have taken throughout their lives. And I was happy to be able to chronicle that.
So that was a pole vaulting farm girl from Kansas.
Yes.
How did that idea come about?
Well, I was a pole vaulting city kid from
you
Kansas.
were?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was an athlete, and I learned to pole vault in my backyard with a bamboo pole. You know, and so it was in my blood to be able to write this. I'd been to the state meet a few times, and I had never won, but things are different when Maggie gets there. So we get to rewrite history a little bit.
And then you went on to your second novel. It's called, and I have a copy I'll hold up, The Real Education of T.J. Crowley, Coming of Age on the Red Line. Yeah. Tell us about this. What does it mean?
After I'd written Maggie, we're looking for a second story, and as I mentioned, we returned to Wichita, and we were attending Unity Church of Wichita. And at Unity, Sheila Brown Kennard and her mother, Mama Josephine Brown, were in the congregation sitting right in front of us. And they invited us, after we sang together. They invited my wife and I to be a part of the Arise Ensemble, which is a great, you may have heard of them. They're African-American,
right,
multicultural, preserving the history of Negro spirituals and the stories that they tell. And it was those stories that really began to affect me. And it took me back to my roots and took me all the way back to where I had grown up in Wichita during the 60s, when there was still quite a bit of segregation, and there was this story captures that time in history after the death of Martin Luther King, the passage of the Fair Housing Act, the beginning of busing, and one 13-year-old boy who's been growing up in one kind of a family, in a white family. He's been told what the other people are like. He has to find out for himself. And he has to make some really tough choices, even though it's going to cost him something. And that's a choice, I think, that's the basic story of The Real Education of T.J. Crowley. He's a young boy who has to unlearn what he learned at home.
So was it difficult writing?
Yes, it was challenging. It was the most challenging project of my life. And it took all of the experiences that I'd had up until I began to write it. And also I had great resources. Gretchen Ike was a historical resource to make sure I had the civil rights history right. And I interviewed several people who had lived in that part of Wichita along with me during that time. And so we went back, and so the characters are based on real people and events that were going on in Wichita at that time. And so getting it right was the challenge, Victor, was to get it right. And that was, as a reporter, you want to get your facts straight. I didn't want it to be one of those stories that was like, oh, but he didn't have his facts straight. The stories are, one thing I want to say, and I've talked too much, I'm sure, but this story is being used in Wichita State University and being taught in Dr. Jay Price's History of Wichita class. So that's a testimony to the accuracy and the work that went into it. And I am proud of that.
And Dr. Jay Price is pretty good.
He is.
Yes, he is. So because of your work, you've just won an Audi. That's from the word audio.
Yes.
An Audi award, which is, describe that award, it's very prestigious.
It is.
You were against several others.
Yes. The Audi Award is the highest honor given to a work in the $2 billion audiobook industry. Each year, the Audio Publishers Association selects 5 finalists from various categories. The Real Education of T.J. Crowley, we converted it, myself and Mae Wuthridge, who's an outstanding producer, director, co-author in New York. She and I worked for 5 years to convert this book into this script. And this is the script book of the audio drama. So we produced a full cast audio with 15 actors playing 24 roles. And think of radio theater. And
like the old days.
yeah, think of it that with each actor playing, the book comes alive with these very great voices. And the engineering was done not only here at Shocker Studios, but also in Wichita at John Marshall Media. But I say that to say this: the Audi Award is beyond what you can hope for. If you get nominated for an Audi Award, which we were one of 5 nominees, that's cause for great celebration, and we were thrilled. And my daughter Jillian and my wife Claire and I, we went to New York City, and we got to meet the producer that I've been working with for 5 years for the first time in person, because everything else had been online and through the phone. So we got to meet, and there we were, and we went in on the red carpet, and lo and behold, when they announced the winner for the young adult audio, they called T.J. Crowley's name. And I couldn't have been happier for everyone who was involved in the project. It's, all the way back to when the book was written, and then from there where we are today, it's been an amazing journey.
So we have a prelude of the audiobook.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and we'd like to play it a little bit. It takes a few seconds.
Sure, well, that would be great.
Okay, let's do that.
Meanwhile, in national news, in an effort to quell the uprising, President Johnson has once again denounced the murder of Dr. Martin Luther King and condemned unnecessary force by local governments in over 100 cities across the nation, including Wichita. All told, the slaying of Dr. King on April 4th has sparked the greatest outbreak of social unrest since the Civil War. With 43 dead, 2,500 injured, and 15,000 arrested. Stay safe and stay tuned to this station for the latest updates.
So Grant, that really sets the scene for what was going on in Wichita during those days.
It does, and you might have recognized that voice. The voice of the radio announcer is Wichita's own John Wright, who was a voice that everyone heard on the radio, especially with weather reports and his work for KFDI radio. But John and I were teammates in high school. And when I needed someone to read this part, I couldn't think of anybody who'd do it better. So that's John, who's reading the prelude there. And the other local talent in the audio is Sheila Brown Kennard, who plays the role inspired by her own mother, Josephine Pace Brown, in the drama. So it's been wonderful. The Arise Ensemble, as you heard in the prelude, the music of the Arise Ensemble drifts through the story just as in the story itself, the music of the Fisk Jubilee Singers comes across this.
From Fisk University
Yes.
in Tennessee.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
They were in the music, the Arise Ensemble plays the role of the Fisk Jubilee Singers. And in doing that, they bring a whole other part of Black culture into the book. And that's because of my affiliation with the Arise Ensemble. And they were gracious enough to allow me to use clips from our live performances to make the book happen. And when it won the Audio Award, it also won an Earphones Award from Audiophile magazine. And they praised the music of the Arise Ensemble for being the soul of the story. That means a lot to me.
And here we have the Audi Award right here for the audience to see. It's a beautiful piece of work within itself.
It was amazing to receive it, and to be able to hold it was remarkable. And what was interesting, Victor, is many of the 15 members who are actually heard in this recording have these on their shelves at home.
Okay.
They were that quality of performance because of Mae Wuthrich and the work that she did in putting the cast together.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. It's an honor. I'll accept that on behalf of everybody at the Real Education Project.
All right. And so you got into something else after writing novels and working in a newspaper. You got into the Real Education Project. Briefly tell us, what is that project?
The Real Education Project began with the real education of Grant Overstake. And when I had the inspiration to write the story back in 2014, I knew that I had a lot of research to do and I needed to consult with a lot of people. So I began to reach out and seek counsel from as many people as I knew and could find in the Black community, civil rights experts, history experts, because that's how it started. As that group, we called it the Real Education Project before we had a book. And then it grew it grew at the same time. Now we have a nonprofit.
So what's the purpose of this Real Education Project?
Yeah, the Real Education Project is a 501c3. We have just recently been given a grant by the Wichita Arts and Culture folks to present a series of these listening events of T.J. Crowley in Wichita here in 2026. So we're delighted that Wichita will be able to hear what we've been working on. And we had our first event at Watermark Books a few days ago, and it was great.
But you also emphasize grit.
Yes. Grit has been a theme of my stories. Maggie Vaults Over the Moon is focused on grit. It's a gritty farm girl. T.J. Crowley is a story that has a lot of dimensions to it. T.J. goes through a lot, and there's a lot of support that he gets, but he also has to make some real big choices about who he is and who he's going to be. And I think it's the courage that he makes that really carries the courage that it takes to be who he is.
Grant, since your novel is set in 1968, let's do something I like to do on this program. It's to play a game.
Okay.
All right? It's called Keep It or Lose It. I'm going to name something from the era. You tell me if we should keep it or lose it. All right?
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Rotary phones.
Keep them just so the kids can see them. I have a granddaughter that doesn't know how to use one. She never know how. I try to explain it to her. That's great. The only thing we can do without rotary phones.
Typewriters.
I miss typewriters. Of course, we still have keyboards,
Yeah.
but the clack of a typewriter is nothing quite like it. I like typewriters, so I would say keep it.
But on the keyboard, you can make corrections and changes, whereas the typewriter, you have to redo the whole thing.
Well, yes, that's true. We used to use whiteout. Remember?
Vinyl records or CDs.
Oh, vinyl. I mean,
You keep them.
my daughter has my collection.
Encyclopedia sets. Keep them or lose them.
You know, when we were young, we were told, someday you can put an entire encyclopedia on one CD. You remember that was the big pitch for CDs? So I'm not sure we need all that to kill that many trees.
Muscle cars, keep them or lose them.
There's some sweet cars. I mean, I love going to car shows. I mean, and it's interesting to see how that nostalgia, I still think there's room for nostalgia, and I think the automobile has been a part of Americana. So I said we keep them.
Drive-in movies, theaters, keep them or lose them.
Popcorn. Popcorn.
But
you know, and
popcorn
at the drive-in theater.
In the car.
Yeah, and the speakers and the whole thing. It's a family event.
All right, the final is the 1968 fashion bell-bottoms and the dye. Keep them or lose them.
The Real Education of T.J. Crowley is set in 1968, and there's tie-dye and bell-bottoms and hush puppies and a lot of different things that people were recognized to around in that time.
So you've been a journalist, an author, and a producer. What is that common thread that connects all of them for you?
Storytelling, the importance of storytelling, the importance of listening, hearing stories told. Again, the research and writing of the stories, and then be able to share them with people, and then to realize that someone somewhere thought enough of our story to give it an audio award was a great satisfaction.
Now, looking back at your career, Grant, what is the most important lesson you've learned about resilience?
The sun goes down for a reason, so it can come up the next day. I used to tell my kids, you have a tough day, don't quit on a bad day. Don't quit on a bad day, Victor. That's, I think, is probably the best lesson that I taught myself. Is there are days you could never measure your progress. I could have never imagined this when we began. I had an idea, and I followed that idea. But I would say that.
So what's the best, or what has been the best time of your life?
I would say these have been the best days of my life.
Oh, really?
Being able to come back to Wichita, find a story, gather people around the story, and now be able to share the story as a piece of history is a wonderful time. I think it's a time that we need. I think we need to build bridges over the fences that divide us, and I think we can do it by listening.
On that note, Grant Overstake, thank you so much.
Victor, it's been a pleasure.
Joining me one-on-one.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. One-on-one@kpts.org is our email address if you have a question or comment. Until next time, I'm Victor Hogstrom. Be well.